Hi, my name is Matt Perez. I'm missing my partner, Jose Leal, who's on vacation somewhere in Europe. And I'm here with Mr. Geeting. And I have to confess, I had a hard time not calling you Greeting. Uh, but I finally got, okay, it's Geeting, it's Geeting, it's Geeting. But anyways, and that's it. So we're gonna go through his background and company and stuff like that for a few minutes, and then we'll talk more about the top-down or the lack of top-down management, and see how that fits with what we like to talk about, which is co-ownership, which is a scary thing, and seeing the current system that we live in, which we call fiat, is like fish in the water. We don't see it, but in this case, we like to make it visible. So, and the model, I'm haven't done this before, but I'm going to do it here. The model is that you have glasses on and everything looks okay, and then you flip and you go, holy shit, there's a lot more to the world than I expected. So, and with that, I'll pass the baton to Preston and let him talk about his background, how he got into this, and his business. It's really a really interesting business.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for the intro. And if you said greeting, you'd be like everybody else. So I'm just so used to it by now, I rarely even correct it. But glad to be on the podcast. I appreciate it. And the rose-colored glasses are a perfect segue, right? So I come from the packaging industry. I spent my entire career, college as an intern, and then post-college working there for 18 years in the industry at a public business. And you're right. You put those rose-colored glasses on, and you see things a certain way, and that's just the way it's always been done. Never going to change. It's an old industry. We do things a very traditional way. When I arrived to work, I'm not that old, but when I arrived to work as an intern, they still had a paper system that would move paper throughout the office. And I mean, we're talking the days now of email, and this old industry would still move paperwork throughout an office on a belt. And then that led way to faxes, which I think is still the way it's done today in the traditional space. But yeah, I know it's wild, but that's the industry. It's just a very old industry. So you're in it, I'm in it, and it's just the way everybody does it, and it's never going to change, and that's what it is. And I'm the one pushing technology, being on the younger side at the time. And at a certain point, after X amount of years and being at the top end of that business, I thought it's time for me to take a leap, and I'm gonna start a business with my co-founder Phil, and do a really technology heavy approach. So when you lift those lenses of the glasses up and you see how things can operate, the speed, the cost, all of it, and then you figure out how to shape an industry or reshape it. So it's pretty exciting. And then in addition to that, we reshaped kind of the culture, how the business operates, people working remotely or in buildings, and all this sort of stuff.
Right.
Just led to the model that we have today.
Right. And so, but your team is partly in Australia and partly here. How does that work?
Yeah, right. Requires a bit of explanation. So my co-founder Phil Weinman is a serial entrepreneur. For Phil, for me, this is my first startup after having been in a public business for a long time. Phil, this is his 18th startup, and first one was a computer business back in the 80s. Did unbelievably well, and he's figured out that model of how can I disrupt traditional industries with technology and scale them very quickly. He sells them or takes them public. He's done that with a couple of them. So when he and I met at a conference for packaging, he was speaking about what he does for a living, which is disruption, entrepreneurship, and that's when it just clicked. And I thought, okay, this guy's interesting. He has a really interesting background. He knows how to do it. So what if we take that background and experience, put it into the packaging space? He's on one side of the world, I'm on the other, but that doesn't mean we can't build a global business in very quick scale. So we did that. And this was back in 2018. We scaled very quickly. We have a lot of back office development tech in Australia. The sales is predominantly out of the US. And since we started, now we're operating, we counted just a week ago, we have operating in 14 different countries for different functions of the business. If it's development or, back in admin or finance or whatever it is, we employ the right people regardless of geography, and we build the tech so they can be successful in their and their area without that traditional top-down management approach where everyone has to show up. You have a leadership team, they're in a building, they have meetings. We're a much different model in the business that we built.
So how does that work? Say more about the part about not the top down and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, the top-down approach, I lived that world. I was in that world. I did that for a lot of years. And you have an executive team that is not on the day-to-day details of the business. They're not in it, right? And they're looking at 5-year plans and how do we grow the business and how do we scale, but they're not actually doing the daily grind of the work. So we reversed it. So in our structure, the management, and there's a couple of us, we're at the bottom, right? And the people that are at the top are the ones doing the work. And we give them the latitude and the flexibility to make decisions. And everybody in our business really operates in their own lane. So you can go as fast as you want in that lane and get things done and keep moving, or go at a good steady pace. But empowering people to make decisions and shape the business rather than reporting through a traditional management structure makes it so that we can scale this thing in like hyperspeed, which is pretty exciting. So we build the right tech so that there can't be any devastating effects to the business. We have buffers, if you will, but it's exciting to watch people take the ownership of their part of the business and be able to make great things happen.
So when you say a lane, what does that mean?
A lane, yeah. So if you're a finance person, you might be in the accounts payable lane, responsible for this, and you're able. I mean, that's your world, start to finish. You control every aspect of that in our model, and you're not reporting in to a line manager that tells you what to do, when to do it, that sort of stuff. There's an area of responsibility, and the people, all of the folks in our ecosystem have that ownership of that lane, and they're able to take that and run with it at the speed that works best for them.
Do they? Do people participate in profits, or how does it look like? What does it look like from the financial side?
Yeah, I mean, our folks are salary based, and there's bonus structures and all that sort of stuff. So there's rewards in the business like there would be in any. But I think the biggest motivator is that flexibility, right? There's so much work that needs to get done in a day, and rather than leave your house, drive to work, punch a clock, be there for 8 hours, punch a clock, drive home, finish it. In our world, the work needs to get done. Some are very much during a business day, but you can have a lot of flexibility to that. So if you want to start early, take a break, go to the gym, come back, resume the work, get it done, it's fine. And we're not counting, hours and minutes every day to make sure that you reach that 8 hours. As long as the work gets done, we're pretty happy with it. So it allows the folks that are on our team to have a pretty balanced life. They get the work done, but they can also enjoy the time with their families.
So in terms of the salespeople, they have their own lanes, or
yeah. Well, the salespeople are easy, right? Because they're easier because they have a book of business, their clients, and that's their lifeblood, right? So in like any good salesperson, they make sure that everything is done and all the time. And sales is a 24/7 job. That's just kind of the nature of it. But they're on the share of the profit side with those clients, which works out really well. So they're just motivated to do great work for the clients, be always accessible. But because our system runs on a computer or a cell phone, you could be anywhere in the world. No one is doing management reports and all this sort of stuff on the salespeople. So the admin side that usually just drives them bonkers in the traditional world, that's relinquished. Our system, it's all automated tech, that sort of stuff. And nothing makes me happier than when our salespeople are balancing out the long work days by going to do something fun, and they can still take care of the work if they need to.
Yeah. And yeah, the admin part is usually probably the thing that turns people off.
Yep. In my past life, the admin for salespeople, it was 80% of their time, maybe higher. Some other businesses where we've had salespeople come in, it's even 90%. So 90% of their day is spent filling out spreadsheets and doing write-ups for management, and this, as opposed to seeing the clients who are the ones that are supporting the business. Yeah. So ours, we reverse it. So the admin is 20% or less, and we even have folks that are admin assistants for the salespeople because we we want the salespeople seeing their customers, taking care of business, not sitting behind a computer filling out spreadsheets. So as much time as we can give them back in their day to do what they do best, it's great for them. It's great for us. We're happy to support it.
So why do you think that's not happening more? That more people are not realizing that whether we haven't doing this bullshit as opposed to visiting customers?
Yeah, well, in my humble opinion, I think it's management control, right? It's if you don't have all these details and things because you don't have the technology built, you really don't understand what's going on. So therefore, you want your salespeople telling you what's going on, so you feel like you have a good pulse of the business. Now, to solve that, we built the tech, so we understand that all of it's visible, transparent. We have a really good handle on every quote, order, detail, delivery. All that stuff is built out in the technology that we have, and it doesn't have to be manually redone so that there's knowledge of it or accountability or any of that sort of stuff. So ultimately, it comes down to technology, and I'll never understand why more don't adopt what's available.
Yeah, I don't either. I was asking with a smile on my face. I don't get it either. So
you gave me a soft pitch on that one. That was easy.
yeah, the surprising thing is that people are not adapting technology more readily, except in the old ways technology. Let's have a module for this, a module for that. How about freeing people up? And this gives me a chance to now try to frame what you said in terms of what I like to talk about, which is the system that we live in, what you call the top-down management, is what I call fiat management. Fiat meaning because I say so. You have to do these things because I say so. And it's the threat of pain enforced, the fear that arises, and then eventually pain enforced if you don't behave. And pain enforced these days is not "I'll kill you," it's "I'll fire you."
Yeah.
So we're hooked on that. We're like fish in water. It's like, water? No, we don't talk about water. It's the stuff, the place we live in. And it's so systemic that people don't see it. So that's one of our big interests is getting people to see that in different ways. In your case, it's more of why should we have people doing spreadsheets as opposed to meeting customers? That's one way of realizing how the system works against you.
Yeah.
In my way, the fiat system is business hostile. It works against the role of the business, and try to make that more available to people. The other thing we like to talk about is co-ownership, but we leave that aside. When you said profit sharing, your people are very involved in sharing the profits, profit sharing, same thing. And what is that? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, for the salespeople, it's their income is derived from a share of the profits. So it gives a real partnership in our business. So they go from working for somebody, and then in our model that we have, they're their own business. They own their own business, but what we provide is all the back end support, the admin, the finance, all that stuff, the credit. So they don't have to put a penny of their own money in, but they're operating as business owners. So from me having worked for a company for so long and doing all the fiat management, all that stuff, it's the world you live in, to then become an entrepreneur where you work for yourself, there's nothing better. So we wanted to duplicate that on the sales side because it just motivates people so much more than being employees on the sales side.
Yeah. So what did you do in the public company that you worked for?
Yeah, I mean, I started as an intern, so working in all departments. I learned the whole business, or a good chunk of it, even going with delivery drivers. And I really want to understand how every part worked. And then I spent the majority of my career in the sales side. So I jumped in. It was a 100% commission industry or business. And when I started, I had nothing, right? So you start from zero, you build up the business. The 9 out of 10 people didn't make it, and they were essentially let go within the first 2 years. And that's pretty normal for the packaging industry. I was the one that did. and just worked my way up to the top of the food chain. Once I did that, I wanted to see, okay, what else is out there? This works. I understand how to do it. I'm making a good living, but I want to make it better. I want to make the business better, and I want to propel things. So I retained the sales responsibilities, but moved into the executive side because I thought I can really shape and change this business. And then figured out that that's not meant to be. If you want to shape and adjust a business, go start your own. So, which is what I
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So how did they see that? They see it as a you trader, you go in the way and stuff like that, or did they support you, or what? How did they see it?
Unfortunately, the former, and that's the topic for a longer discussion. But yeah, it did. I understand there's emotions and all that sort of stuff. But when I did leave, I was very upfront about it, that I'm starting a business. We're small. I'm leaving a public company that's big, but my intent is to grow this thing. And within less than a week, I was sued, chased, all that sort of stuff, and it was a very odd 9 months to say the least. But I learned a lot from it. We countersued. It was dropped because it's a non-compete state. I'm in California. It's all nonsense trying to tie you up and drain you with, as best as they can. And, at the end of the day, it was just nonsense. So when we finally were able to get going, we hit the gas and we built up a nice business in pretty short time.
So they didn't take it well.
Nope.
Yeah, there's a lot of, but we pay you so well and we treat you so well. And I got a quote here that I think came from your background or something. It says, your salary is the price they give you to forget your dreams.
100%. Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even know what your dreams are because you're so caught up in this is the only way it is. I drive for an hour and I work and I drive for an hour back and I feel like shit and I drink beer. And yeah, that's not a very healthy way of living. That's what
Not at all. And so that's my kind of mission. What I get the biggest satisfaction out of what I'm doing is getting people from where I was, because you're right, I made a great living. On paper, everything was fantastic, except for I didn't feel fulfilled. So my mission is to bring people into our environment where they can feel fulfilled, have a really good balance in their life, see their families, an appropriate amount, work, get the work done, make a good living. It can all happen. It doesn't have to be you sacrifice everything to do a job. It's just, it doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah, but most people, that's the way it goes for most people.
Yeah.
You go work at McDonald's because you have a kid and you're a single mom, and you fool yourself into thinking that, I'm gonna save and study, and it never happens, and you get caught in that. Or salespeople. I had the experience of salespeople were selling imaginary things when I came into this company, and I finally told them, we're not going to pick commissions for imaginary things. That's all there's.
Yeah.
And that wasn't taken well, but it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Exactly.
So anyways, I want to put a bug in your ear. And the bug in your ear is that besides what you're doing for the salespeople, that they have their own business. And by the way, you're providing the background platform and the stuff underneath. The same thing can be done for finance and everything else.
Sure.
They can be in their own business and you provide the platform. And that would be fantastic. You can do something like that.
Well, and make no mistake, we're in the packaging industry because that's where I came from, right? Phil is a technology wizard. He can build technology for anything, and he has across many different industries. Travel being the one prior to us, same model, same disruption, different industry. So our platform, Packform, what we built, is a buy and sell model. So it's doing packaging right now, but it can buy and sell anything. We built the tech to do it. You bring in the supply chain, you bring in the customers, the technology works, and anything with a cost and a sell, it does beautifully. So I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, and the thing is, why should closing take 30 days? It should be closing every night. And with a system like that, you should be able to close every night. even if you have accounts that have not paid or whatever, you should take that into account and close.
Yeah.
But anyways, so you give me a little bit of your background of how you got here. You were an intern and stuff like that. But it's hard to get how you went from regular American business to a more, oh, let's try this weird shit. And by the way, you are a young man. So I was going to say, at your young, tender age, what makes you make that change? And I mean, it takes a lot of guts.
Yeah, no, it did. And our model is for those with courage, right, that are willing to step out and go on their own. For the rest that followed after me, it's, they're not paving the path the first time, but it's not the easiest ever, right? But I've always been more on the entrepreneurial side. Even as a kid doing the lemonade stands and mowing lawns and that, if I wanted something, I'll go out, start a business or do whatever, work, save up the money, and then get what I wanted.
Right.
And for me, I think I got lucky with the internship in the industry I was in, with the business I was in, because it promoted that 100% commission sales, which is hard. And that's a really good way for the entrepreneurial minded to start in that industry without without needing a bunch of cash to start a business and do that. So I got really fortunate in that. It taught me a lot about the becoming an entrepreneur. And for me, it was, because it's just in me to want to do things better. I'm really motivated by quality of work. And when I see that the quality isn't the best that I think can be produced, then my decision was to do it on my own. And so I stepped out, and with my family's support, we did it, and we figured it out.
Yeah, you said the key thing, which is we're just family support, because it does make a strain in your family as well.
Yeah, 100%.
From having that steady paycheck, which takes you away from your dreams, but it's a steady paycheck, and the not knowing what's going to happen next. I mean, you have ideas in your head, and you have all these hopes in your head, and the platform and all the rest of it, but will people take the chance?
Yeah.
People take the credibility. So do you have people in the U.S. or all over the place, or?
For sales, it's almost completely out of the United States. For the business, we're operating all around the world for a lot of the back end stuff.
Okay, but the sales is being done from the U.S.
Yeah.
Okay, why is that?
Market's huge in the United States. It's just, Australia in the packaging space there's really two big players, and in the United States there's just hundreds of thousands of different competitors and companies and all that. It's just a massive market. So,
Right.
Kind of looking at the opportunity as well as we've done in really 4 short years of running this business, we're just the tiny speck in a sea of opportunity. So we've got plenty to keep us busy for a long time.
So you've only been operating for 4 years.
Yeah. So we started right at the end of 18, lawsuit, countersuit that paused us for 9 months, which was, honestly, it was really beneficial because it allowed us 9 months to really develop our tech and perfect it before we opened the floodgates and went. And also it gave us a great story. It's a David and Goliath story, right? I mean, we're this tiny little nothing getting sued by the behemoth and countersuing. And at the end of the day, we didn't back down. So it gave us a great story to tell. And once we were ready to really go, people were pretty excited. It was pretty neat to see what we were doing.
That is a great story. So I had something in my mind, but it's slipped my mind. So it's old age showing up. And I think at this point I get to plug, I raised the right hand. So I get to plug the book, and the book is called Radical Companies Without Bosses or Employees. And the whole idea behind the book, and by the way, you can find it at Kindle and this. So I did the plug, and everybody's happy with me. And the idea behind the book is I co-founded a company with a partner of mine, Roberto Martinez. He lives down the street here, and And from the beginning, and then we read this book by Ricardo Semler. He's a Brazilian, a German, a child of Brazilian, Germans in Brazil. And he ended up with what we call a co-managed company. You hear self-management, it's the same idea, but I don't like this self because that puts the company in the center, and there's more co-managed companies. We co-manage the space.
Yeah.
There's no company per se. And so we read the book and got all excited. And our company was co-managed from day one. So they say there's like 800 people or 900 people, I don't know what it is anymore, but no managers, no hierarchy, no nothing.
Yep.
But there were owners. It was my partner and myself were co-owners, and then a third each, and the third was belonged to everybody else. But we were the owners. We're the big kahunas when it came to property, and so it started me thinking about co-ownership as part of, or ownership as part of management, being seen as management, being seen as different. And besides, ownership can always tell the top manager, the CEO or whatever, well, we don't like you anymore. We're going to fire you. We're going to hire a guy that's more along the lines of what we feel like it. And so the book is about a company that has co-ownership. Because my idea is ownership is so good for a few of us, it would be good for all of us. Right?
Yeah.
And so how to spread that property amongst people is not, it's actually very simple, but it's been complicated by the fact that there's been no technology to help it. It's been, we have somebody that makes the decisions, and it's a boss. He's very benign. He's just up on the mountain with free cross and all that stuff. But everybody, if you're a human, you have a bias. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And so we have an app, very simple app, that allows everybody to say, oh, that's a contribution, that's a contribution, that's a contribution. So we all give you, recognize the contributions, and you as part of the bigger team recognize my contributions or not, and like that, right? And that will solve technically that will solve the ownership problem, but it's still a big challenge. It's still a big a big hag, a big hairy audacious goal. So I was struggling with that, but that's what the book is about.
Interesting.
That's what we're interested in, and you're closer to that than most people are. More people are like the old companies that you left.
Yeah.
And you're more into how can we make people own their business and own their brand and all that stuff, and then we provide the back end. And there's still a lot of money to be made for that.
Infinite amounts. Yeah. And just from my experience in the corporate world, it's brutal. And I got out when I was still up and coming and climbing and doing all that sort of stuff. But that I've seen too many of my friends where they eventually just get let go, laid off, fired, whatever, too expensive, whatever the reason is. And that, they invested their lives into a business to be dismissed after 20 years. Or the ones that never make retirement, life's short. So that's where I just, with the, again, with my family's support, just came to the decision that if I'm ever going to do it, I got to do it. Eventually there's a leap in life, and you just need to go for it and trust in yourself. But fortune favors the bold, which is one of my favorite quotes. And you have to be bold sometimes. And we built this platform to let others that have that same itch and believe in themselves to have that same leap, and we'll be there to hold their hand as they jump off. But it's worked pretty well.
But that's the thing that I like about your business, that you're helping people who want to make the leap, and maybe afraid of, oh, I don't have the capital, I don't have this, I don't have that. but I have the skills. I can talk, and and you're helping those people as well. And maybe
Yeah.
those people will continue and do other things. Once people lose fear or something,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing what they can do. But what we can do. But it's that initial fear that keeps you in that box.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. I mean, it ends up killing you in the end. So
Sure. Yeah. And I love it when, especially for our salespeople, when, someone's looking for their manager or something and calls and says, "Oh, the salesperson, are you his or her manager?" I'm not their manager. They're their own boss. They own their own business. I
yeah,
support them. And, nothing, as opposed to the traditional top down approach where you want to talk to a boss and they're over them and they do this. No, 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 no. The people in our system, they're their own bosses and nothing's better. Now I'm going to help them handle business if they need, but they report to themselves.
yeah. And that's a huge step from where we're at to the fiat system that we live in today. That's a step away from it.
Yeah.
And we need to get away from it. I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of the bad decisions in the world are based on the fact that if a few selected people that started, 400 years ago and have a business and blah blah blah, are making decisions today that they should have, like you were saying, the management wanted to know what the people next to the customers were doing. What did they talk to customers?
Yeah.
Just pick up the phone, talk to the customer.
Yeah.
And but no, I got to read it in the report that this guy writes, even if he takes 90% of his time away from getting the information and getting that knowledge. That's the terrible thing. Okay, I'm being proud to announce next week's guest, and that is Luz Iglesias, VP of People and Culture at Raise.
Cool.
And she's going to be talking about do-it-yourself, homegrown versus ready-made systems. And she's a really cool lady and really dynamic and can sit in one place. I know her for a little while, and and really interesting person. So, well, thank you very much, Preston. And I was going to call you Desmond, and Desmond Greeting. And thanks for your time, and thanks for your putting time into this and thought. And appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, Matt. And I love the topic. And I think I agree with you. This is where the world needs to go. And
Yeah.
just, it'll get there. So piece at a time, step at a time.
All right.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you.